We finally know how to detox microplastics. Dr. William Lee. Have you ever stopped to think about how much plastic you've already consumed today? Not the bottle in your hand or the packaging around your lunch, but microscopic fragments so small they're invisible to the naked eye. Research now suggests the average person may ingest thousands of tiny plastic particles every year through food, drinking water, and even the air they breathe. Scientists have detected these particles in human blood, the lungs, the liver, and even the brain. What once seemed impossible has become one of the most unexpected public health discoveries of our time. But here's the surprising part. The biggest question isn't simply whether microplastics are inside our bodies, it's whether our bodies have ways to defend themselves and whether our daily choices can strengthen those natural defenses. For years, many people assumed that once these particles enter the body, nothing could be done. However, researchers have uncovered a much more hopeful story. While no food, supplement, or lifestyle habit can magically eliminate every microplastic we've been exposed to, growing evidence suggests our bodies are far from helpless. In fact, many of the same biological systems that protect us from everyday environmental challenges may also play an important role in reducing the burden these particles place on our health. Today, we're exploring what the latest science reveals about microplastics, how they interact with the human body, and what evidence-based strategies may help support your body's own natural detoxification systems. Some of these findings are surprisingly simple. Others challenge long-held assumptions about aging, nutrition, and the remarkable resilience of the human body. And one discovery near the end of this video may completely change the way you think about your next meal. For decades, plastic transformed modern life. It made medicine safer, food storage easier, transportation lighter, and technology more accessible. But plastic never truly disappears. Instead, sunlight, heat, friction, and time gradually break it into smaller and smaller fragments. Scientists classify these tiny fragments as microplastics when they measure less than 5 millimeters in size. Even smaller particles, called nanoplastics, are measured in billionths of a meter. At that scale, they become capable of interacting with biological tissues in ways researchers are only beginning to understand. These particles have been detected almost everywhere scientists have looked. They're found in oceans, rivers, farmland, rainfall, mountain snow, seafood, fruits, vegetables, bottled water, tap water, and household dust. Even opening a plastic food container or twisting the cap from a water bottle may release tiny plastic fragments. At first, many experts believed these particles would simply pass through the digestive tract without causing significant concern. However, that's not the most interesting part. New research indicates that while many particles are indeed eliminated naturally, some extremely small particles may cross biological barriers and enter the bloodstream. Scientists continue investigating exactly how often this happens, what quantities are involved, and whether long-term accumulation influences health over decades. The science is still evolving, but one conclusion is becoming increasingly clear. The body's response matters just as much as the exposure itself. Think about the immune system for a moment. Every day it encounters bacteria, viruses, pollutants, damaged cells, and countless foreign substances. Most of us never notice because the body is constantly identifying threats, cleaning up waste, repairing tissues, and maintaining balance. Researchers now believe this same network may also influence how the body handles certain microscopic plastic particles. But this raises an important question. If the body already possesses sophisticated defense systems, why are scientists paying so much attention to diet, exercise, sleep, and overall metabolic health? The answer lies in one remarkable concept that has transformed modern preventive medicine: resilience. Healthy bodies don't simply avoid challenges, they recover from them more efficiently. As we age, many of these protective systems gradually become less effective. Chronic inflammation may increase, cellular repair slows down, metabolism changes, immune cells don't always communicate as efficiently as they once did, This means that two people with similar environmental exposure could potentially respond very differently depending on their overall health. And this is where nutrition enters the story. Dr. William Lee has spent years studying how food interacts with the body's natural defense systems. Rather than viewing nutrition simply as calories, his research emphasizes how certain foods influence blood vessels, immune function, the gut microbiome, inflammation, and cellular repair. While his work does not claim that foods remove plastic directly from tissues, it highlights something equally important. A healthier internal environment may better support the body's existing detoxification pathways. That distinction matters. Unfortunately, the internet is filled with dramatic claims promising instant detoxes, miracle cleanses, or expensive supplements that supposedly eliminate toxins overnight. Research simply doesn't support those promises. The human body already contains highly sophisticated detoxification organs. The liver continuously transforms substances into forms that can be eliminated. The kidneys filter blood around the clock. The digestive tract removes waste. The lungs expel airborne particles. The skin contributes through sweating, although its role in eliminating many environmental substances appears relatively limited compared with the liver and kidneys. Instead of searching for shortcuts, scientists increasingly recommend supporting these natural systems through healthy daily habits. Yet the real discovery came years later. Researchers studying the gut microbiome began uncovering fascinating connections between intestinal bacteria and environmental exposures. Inside every healthy digestive system lives an enormous ecosystem of trillions of microorganisms. Together, they help digest food, produce vitamins, influence immune function, maintain the intestinal barrier, and communicate with nearly every major organ in the body. When this ecosystem becomes disrupted, inflammation may increase, digestion may become less efficient, and the intestinal barrier may function less effectively. Evidence suggests that some environmental pollutants, including certain microscopic plastic particles, may interact with this delicate balance. Fortunately, the reverse may also be true. A diverse, healthy microbiome appears better equipped to maintain intestinal integrity and support normal elimination processes. So, what strengthens this remarkable internal ecosystem? The answer isn't found in an expensive cleanse. It's found in something much simpler: fiber. For many people, fiber is still associated mainly with digestive regularity. But scientists now recognize fiber as one of the most important nutrients for overall health. Unlike sugars or starches, much of dietary fiber reaches the large intestine intact, where beneficial bacteria ferment it into compounds called short-chain fatty acids. These compounds help nourish intestinal cells, support immune balance, and contribute to maintaining the protective lining of the gut. Researchers believe this healthy intestinal barrier may influence how efficiently unwanted substances move through the digestive system instead of crossing into circulation. In other words, eating more fiber isn't about detoxing in the dramatic way social media often suggests. It's about creating conditions that allow the body to function as nature intended. And here's something many people never hear. Most adults consume far less fiber than recommended. That means millions of people may be missing one of the simplest nutritional habits associated with healthier aging. Foods naturally rich in fiber include beans, lentils, oats, berries, apples, leafy greens, broccoli, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. These same foods also contain thousands of plant compounds known as polyphenols. And this is where the story takes another unexpected turn. Polyphenols are attracting enormous scientific interest because they appear to interact with multiple protective systems simultaneously. They help plants defend themselves from environmental stress. Interestingly, when humans consume polyphenol-rich foods, research suggests these compounds may also support antioxidant defenses, healthy blood vessels, immune regulation, and communication between cells. Foods such as blueberries, pomegranates, green tea, cocoa, olives, colorful vegetables, herbs, and many spices contain remarkable combinations of these naturally occurring compounds. Dr. Lee frequently describes food not as medicine in the traditional sense, but as information. Every meal sends biochemical signals throughout the body. Some dietary patterns appear to promote chronic inflammation. Others appear to encourage repair. Over months and years, those signals accumulate. And this accumulation may matter far more than any single meal. Researchers have become increasingly interested in chronic, low-grade inflammation because it appears across many age-related conditions. Inflammation itself isn't the enemy. Without inflammation, wounds wouldn't heal and infections couldn't be controlled. The problem arises when inflammatory signaling remains elevated for long periods. Evidence suggests that various environmental stressors, including pollution, smoking, poor sleep, excess body fat, physical inactivity, and potentially certain microscopic environmental particles may all contribute to this background inflammatory state. The encouraging news is that lifestyle choices appear capable of influencing the same biological pathways. Regular physical activity, balanced nutrition, adequate sleep, stress management, and maintaining metabolic health consistently appear in scientific research as factors associated with healthier inflammatory balance. Notice what researchers are emphasizing: not a miracle supplement, not a 7-day detox, not an expensive protocol. Instead, they're pointing toward habits that strengthen the body's resilience over decades. However, there's another piece of this puzzle that receives surprisingly little attention: hydration. Water supports nearly every physiological process in the human body. Blood circulation depends on it. Kidney filtration depends on it. Digestion depends on it. Temperature regulation depends on it. While drinking extra water won't magically flush microplastics from tissues, remaining properly hydrated supports the normal function of organs responsible for filtering and eliminating waste products. At the same time, researchers have been investigating whether the source of drinking water influences exposure itself. Some studies have observed that bottled water may contain higher numbers of microplastic particles than certain filtered tap water sources, although results vary depending on manufacturing methods, testing techniques, and local water systems. This has encouraged scientists to study practical ways of reducing unnecessary exposure while continuing to investigate the broader picture. And that broader picture is perhaps the most reassuring discovery of all. Health is rarely determined by one single exposure. It emerges from thousands of small interactions taking place every day between our genes, our environment, our habits, our metabolism, and the remarkable biological systems working quietly to keep us alive. Which brings us to another fascinating question. If nutrition supports these protective systems, could movement amplify them as well? The answer has surprised even many researchers. For years, exercise was viewed primarily as a way to burn calories, strengthen muscles, or improve cardiovascular fitness. While all of those benefits remain true, scientists now understand that regular movement triggers an extraordinary chain of biological events throughout the entire body. Every time you engage in moderate physical activity, your muscles release signaling molecules known as myokines. These chemical messengers communicate with the brain, the immune system, fat tissue, blood vessels, and even organs involved in metabolism. Rather than simply moving your body, you're activating an intricate communication network that researchers believe plays a key role in healthy aging. And this is where the story becomes especially interesting. Evidence suggests that regular exercise supports circulation, enhances insulin sensitivity, promotes healthy immune function, and encourages a process known as autophagy. Autophagy is often described as the body's cellular recycling system. As cells age, damaged proteins and worn-out components naturally accumulate. Scientists have observed that under certain conditions, cells can identify these damaged parts, break them down, and recycle many of their building blocks into new cellular structures. It's one of the body's most remarkable maintenance systems. Researchers continue exploring whether this process may also influence how cells respond to various environmental stressors, including pollutants. While it's important not to overstate what autophagy can accomplish, maintaining healthy cellular housekeeping appears to be an important part of overall resilience. What's fascinating is that several everyday habits are associated with supporting this natural process. Regular physical activity is one of them. Getting sufficient sleep is another. Maintaining metabolic health also appears to play an important role. Notice the pattern emerging throughout this discussion. Again and again, the science points towards strengthening the body's built in systems rather than searching for quick fixes. But researchers uncovered another unexpected factor that many people overlook: sleep. Most people think of sleep as simply resting the brain after a long day. In reality, sleep is one of the most active periods of biological repair. During deep sleep, hormones regulating tissue repair become more active. Immune cells coordinate their activities. Memory is consolidated. The brain's waste clearance system, often called the glymphatic system, becomes significantly more active than during waking hours. Scientists believe this system helps remove various metabolic waste products that naturally accumulate throughout the day. Although researchers are still studying whether and how microscopic environmental particles interact with these pathways, one conclusion is already well supported. Consistently poor sleep disrupts many of the body's protective mechanisms. Sleep deprivation has been associated with increased inflammation, impaired immune regulation, altered glucose metabolism, higher stress hormone levels, and reduced cognitive performance. In other words, one of the simplest ways to support your body's resilience may begin long before breakfast. It begins the night before. And yet, another discovery challenges a common assumption about healthy living. Many people focus almost entirely on adding beneficial foods while overlooking the importance of reducing unnecessary exposure. Scientists call this the exposure side of the equation. Although completely avoiding microplastics is unrealistic in today's world, researchers have identified several practical strategies that may reduce avoidable exposure without creating fear or anxiety. Heating food in certain plastic containers may increase the release of plastic particles into food. Choosing glass or ceramic containers for hot meals can be one practical alternative. Using stainless steel or reusable glass bottles may reduce reliance on single-use plastic beverage containers. Selecting fresh foods more often than highly processed packaged products may decrease contact with plastic packaging while also improving overall nutritional quality. Ventilating indoor spaces and reducing household dust through regular cleaning may also help minimize exposure to airborne particles, since indoor dust has been found to contain microscopic plastic fibers. None of these steps need to be perfect. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is gradual improvement. And this highlights one of the most important lessons in preventive medicine. Small changes, repeated consistently, often matter more than dramatic changes maintained for only a few days. Researchers studying longevity have repeatedly observed this principle across different populations around the world. People living long, healthy lives rarely rely on miracle interventions. Instead, they build lifestyles that support their biology day after day, year after year. This brings us back to nutrition. One of the most exciting areas of research involves foods that naturally support vascular health. Our blood vessels form an astonishing network stretching tens of thousands of miles throughout the body. They deliver oxygen, nutrients, immune cells, and signaling molecules to every organ. Dr. William Li has emphasized that protecting this vascular network may be one of the foundations of healthy aging. Research suggests that foods such as leafy greens, tomatoes, berries, citrus fruits, garlic, soy foods, nuts, fatty fish, and extra virgin olive oil are associated with healthy blood vessel function as part of an overall balanced dietary pattern. Healthy circulation allows tissues to receive the resources they need for repair and maintenance. Once again, the focus isn't on removing a specific substance, it's on strengthening the body's ability to maintain balance. And perhaps that's the most encouraging message emerging from modern health science. Our biology is incredibly adaptive. Throughout human history, we've been exposed to changing environments, infectious diseases, natural toxins, changing climates, and countless physical challenges. The human body evolved sophisticated systems precisely because perfect environments have never existed. Today's challenges may be different, but the underlying principle remains remarkably similar. Support the systems, strengthen the defenses, reduce unnecessary burdens whenever practical. Researchers also continue investigating antioxidants found naturally in plant foods. For years, antioxidants were marketed almost like magic shields against aging. More recent science paints a more nuanced picture. Our bodies actually produce many of their own antioxidant enzymes. Rather than overwhelming the body with extremely high dose supplements, eating a wide variety of colorful fruits, vegetables, legumes, herbs, and whole foods appears to provide a diverse range of compounds that interact naturally with our own protective systems. This diversity may be one reason dietary patterns like the Mediterranean diet continue attracting scientific attention. Instead of focusing on one quote-unquote superfood, they emphasize variety. Different plants contain different protective compounds. No single food does everything. Together, they create nutritional diversity that supports many biological pathways simultaneously. Another area generating considerable interest involves metabolic health. High blood sugar, insulin resistance, excess visceral fat, and chronic metabolic dysfunction have all been associated with increased inflammatory activity. Researchers believe maintaining healthy metabolic function supports many of the body's repair mechanisms. Regular movement, balanced meals, adequate protein, fiber-rich carbohydrates, healthy fats, stress management, quality sleep. Individually, each habit offers modest benefits. Together, they reinforce one another in powerful ways. This interconnectedness is something scientists appreciate more with every passing year. The body doesn't operate as isolated organs working independently. The brain influences the immune system. The immune system influences the gut. The gut communicates with the liver. The liver affects metabolism. Blood vessels nourish every tissue. Each system depends upon the others. When one area becomes healthier, the effects often ripple throughout the body. That's why simplistic health claims rarely match reality. Real health is built through networks, not shortcuts, not miracle ingredients, not overnight transformations. As research into microplastics continues, scientists will undoubtedly discover more about how these particles behave inside the human body. New technologies will improve detection methods. Larger studies will provide clearer answers. Some current assumptions may be revised as stronger evidence emerges. That's how science progresses, not through certainty from the beginning, but through careful observation, repeated testing, open debate, and continuous refinement. In the meantime, the evidence already provides several practical lessons. Eat a diet rich in whole, minimally processed foods. Prioritize fiber every day. Include a wide variety of colorful plant foods. Stay physically active. Sleep consistently. Support metabolic health. Stay hydrated. Reduce unnecessary plastic exposure where practical without becoming consumed by fear. These habits are supported by decades of research, not because they target one specific concern, but because they strengthen the body's ability to function well under many different conditions. And perhaps that's the most empowering realization of all. The conversation about microplastics isn't ultimately a story about plastic. It's a story about resilience. It's about recognizing that while we cannot control every aspect of our environment, we can influence how well our bodies respond to it. Every nutritious meal becomes an investment in cellular health. Every walk strengthens systems that quietly protect you. Every good night's sleep supports countless repair processes you'll never consciously notice. Every healthy habit becomes another vote for the future version of yourself. Modern science continues reminding us that longevity isn't simply about adding years to life, it's about adding life to those years. Remaining energetic enough to travel, strong enough to play with grandchildren, mentally sharp enough to enjoy meaningful conversations. independent enough to continue doing the things that give life purpose. Those outcomes rarely depend on one dramatic decision. They emerge from ordinary choices made repeatedly over long periods of time. The remarkable thing is that many of those choices begin today, not with fear, not with perfection, but with understanding, because knowledge changes behavior. Behavior shapes biology. And biology, over years and decades, shapes the quality of the life we ultimately experience. The decisions we make today may seem small: choosing whole foods instead of heavily processed ones, taking a walk instead of remaining sedentary, sleeping an extra hour, drinking from a reusable bottle, filling half the plate with colorful vegetables. None of these actions feels extraordinary in the moment. Yet science consistently suggests that health is built through accumulation. Tiny improvements, repeated day after day, become meaningful over time. The body is constantly adapting to the signals we provide through our environment, our nutrition, our movement, and our daily routines. While researchers continue uncovering new insights about microplastics and other environmental challenges, one message remains remarkably consistent. The most powerful strategy isn't chasing the latest detox trend. It's supporting the extraordinary systems your body already possesses. Because your liver never takes a day off. Your kidneys continue filtering every minute. Your immune system constantly surveys for potential threats. Your cells repair themselves while you sleep. Your gut microbiome responds to every meal you eat. These systems have been protecting human health for thousands of years. The more we understand how they work, the more we realize that lasting wellness often comes from partnering with our biology rather than fighting against it. And that may be the most hopeful scientific discovery of all. The decisions we make today may seem small, but over years and decades, those choices can shape how we age, how we feel, and how long we remain healthy. That's why understanding the science matters.